After Yang is the second feature film by Kogonada, the Korean director, with a lot of promise. Is this movie any good? Would I watch it again? Let me tell you what I think coming up next. After Yang is Kogonada's second feature film. His first one in 2017, Columbus, was an ode to modernist architecture. A lot of people loved this movie. It was really great to look at. So I was excited to see his second feature, this science fiction film involving Colin Farrell and androids. Now, Kogonada is establishing himself as sort of an Ozu plus Malick director. He really loves forms, he loves cinematography, he loves great shots and great music. And he's got a story-based movie here. So the question is whether he can integrate his great aesthetic tastes with his stories. Of course, he wrote and directed this movie. And so that will be a challenge for him, I think, in the future, is to have a great story combined with great aesthetics. I'm not sure that this movie blended both very well. I think some of its story is in tension a little bit with the aesthetics, but this is a very good movie to look at, and I should mention this is an A24 movie as well. To describe the story, we have Colin Farrell and Jodie Turner-Smith as a couple here, white man, black woman with an Asian child. We're told, I think, that she's Chinese. They have an android, also called in the movie a technosapien. That's their term for android in the movie, although I will use the word android. Very quickly, the android is dysfunctional. They have to go in and diagnose him and see what's wrong with him. He's not functioning properly. This causes a lot of lament because the young daughter, who is a little bit lonely, would like her android back. Well, as the father, named Jake, played by Colin Farrell, investigates what's wrong with the android, he comes across the android's memory bank. It shouldn't have a memory bank. This is unusual, supposedly, in the movie world. And he starts to investigate these memories that this android has. Along with that, there's a mystery woman who shows up when we wonder who she is, but somehow she's connected to this android or technosapien. There's a few mysteries to be unveiled, and I suppose the viewer will really have to work here to, one, keep attention, and two, really think pretty hard about this movie and what's going on with it. If you're not in the mood for doing that, I would not at all recommend this movie. It is a lot like Columbus. If you've seen that, it is very, very slow, meditative, takes its time, and I would describe a movie like this, I think this is what Kogonada is up to, is more like a lyric poem than it is a story or a narrative poem or something like that. If I think about it as a lyric poem, this movie works pretty well for me. If I think of it as anything else, as sort of a rich, complex story, not so much. As a lyric about this family that looks pretty good, they look like they've got it put together, and those are the opening shots of the movie, the nuclear family in a photograph. Also, they're doing a choreographed dance together, but the problems creep up. Clearly, they're not as close as it would appear that they are, and each of them has their own interests and wants, I think. Those are explored a tiny bit in the movie, at least through the shot making. I believe if you watch this movie as a story, you'll probably have some problems with it, but I think as a science fiction work, it's not too bad. It gestures to a much wider world with rich, deep complications. One question I had was, who or what is this young girl in the family? In the beginning of the movie, she has problems with her schoolmates because she seems to be of a different race as both her mother and father. Has she been adopted? Exactly how have they, gotten her as a child? Well, there are more possibilities than just adopting a biological child in this movie world. And I'm wondering if this movie is gesturing towards other possibilities for her. I'm not sure it's in the movie, but certainly the viewer can try to pull that out, and then that would open this movie up a little bit to think about what this, or who or what this little girl is. Of course, this is a major theme in Blade Runner. That's why this movie is being compared to it, because who or what is an android, who or what is a technosapien in this movie. I think you can make all kinds of guesses about these characters, whether they're human or not human, and that may be of interest to those who want to explore this movie a little bit farther. I think as well this story could have been written in the 1930s. It's got classic science fiction bare bones. They've been making these kinds of stories and written science fiction for a long, long time, trying to explore what it means to be human, what a post-human world is when we integrate ourselves with technology, or we develop technosapiens like are depicted here in the movie. Will we care or not about them? And of course, Yang in this movie is sort of, in one sense, he's a device, but in the sense he's a family member. And so the movie sort of plays with that. Which is he? And to the tech or service industry, or to the museum in the movie, I think he's kind of a device to be displayed or to be probed. Whereas to the family, especially the little girl and Jake, he is more than just a device. And that opens up questions about why humans do that for things that aren't really alive, so-called, for their devices, for things that are part of their family that are not really biological humans. This movie, I think, is discussing that somewhat. I'm not convinced that this movie coheres that well. I did find it to be a bit slow, even with an 85-minute runtime. Nevertheless, I do like looking at Kogonada's work. I think there's a touch of Ozu in here. There's certainly a lot more Malick in here, and other sorts of directors like that. So he is aware of great movie art, and I think he's thinking about that with this movie in particular. So I would suggest you first watch Columbus. I think that's a little bit better, although a lot slower than this. But if those are interested in science fiction, you might actually like this movie. Although I don't think this will be one that will please a wide berth of people. All in all, I'm going to give this 3 to 3.5 stars. That's above average. I might watch it again. That doesn't mean it's really great. It's pretty good. And so what do you think of this movie? I'm really interested in your thoughts about it. Please let us know in the comments. Thank you. Have a great day, and please subscribe.